All right, so we're diving into some pretty interesting MLS matchups today, looking specifically at Matchday 29th coming up in March 2025.
Yep.
And you know what's really fascinating about this is we've got this incredible analysis from the Gambler's Ruin Project,
Right.
powered by SmartBet AI. And we're going to try to dissect some of these predictions. You know, not just what the AI is telling us is going to happen, but why.
Absolutely. And it's worth remembering right up front that we're exploring these AI insights for informational and entertainment purposes.
Right.
The source really emphasizes that these statistical models, historical data, all this stuff, Poisson distribution, Monte Carlo simulations, they provide us with probabilities.
Right.
But the beautiful unpredictability of live sport means nothing is ever guaranteed.
Right.
So this isn't financial advice. This is just a fascinating look under the hood at how these predictions are made.
All right, well, let's kick things off out in the Mile High City.
Okay.
Colorado Rapids are set to host Charlotte FC at Dick's Sporting Goods Park.
All right.
Forecast's looking pretty mild, 49 degrees, dry, light wind.
Sounds pretty good.
But there is a potentially game-changing element at play,
Okay.
which is that altitude in Colorado hovering over 5,000 feet.
Right.
So, you know, you hear about it, but what kind of real impact can that have on a team like Charlotte coming in from sea level?
So the altitude is definitely a significant factor.
Yeah.
Especially for a team like Charlotte that likes to play with a lot of energy and quick transitions.
Yeah.
The thinner air means less oxygen, which can lead to quicker fatigue, particularly in the second half.
Yeah.
Teams not used to it often struggle to maintain those high-intensity bursts.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's a subtle but potentially decisive advantage for Colorado.
It's almost like, you know, trying to sprint a marathon.
Right. Exactly.
Now, let's look at how these two teams are shaping up. Charlotte's coming in hot, 3 wins in their last 4 matches.
Yeah, they're in good form.
Colorado, they tend to be stronger on their home turf.
Right.
But their overall form has been a bit up and down.
A little inconsistent.
Yeah, inconsistent. And the injury report tells an interesting story.
Okay.
Colorado will be without a key midfielder in Jack Price and defender Lalas Abubakar due to injury. Charlotte, thankfully, seems relatively healthy, with only Kamil Jozwiak listed as a question mark.
Right.
How much do you think those absences are going to hurt Colorado?
Well, I think the loss of Jack Price for Colorado is a real blow.
Yeah.
He's the kind of player who dictates tempo in midfield and provides crucial defensive cover.
Right.
So his absence likely disrupts their defensive shape in the middle of the park and limits their ability to transition quickly from defense to attack.
Yeah.
Abubakar's absence also puts pressure on their defensive depth.
Right.
You know, for Charlotte, having a mostly healthy squad definitely gives them an edge in terms of tactical options and the ability to maintain their intensity throughout the match.
Makes sense. All right, so with those factors in mind, let's get to what the AI is actually telling us.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's dive into those predictions from the Gambler's Ruin Project.
Right.
Using the Poisson distribution, the AI gives a slight edge to Colorado, with 1.3 expected goals compared to Charlotte's 1.19.
Okay.
But the Monte Carlo simulation, which runs thousands of virtual matches, paints a slightly different picture.
Okay.
39% chance of a Colorado win, 27% for a draw, and 34% for a Charlotte victory.
So it's really tight.
It is razor thin.
Yeah.
What do you think is behind that slight divergence?
That's interesting. I think of the Poisson distribution as a way the AI predicts the most likely number of goals each team might score based on their historical attacking and defending records.
Right.
So that slight edge for Colorado suggests they might be expected to score a touch more often.
Okay.
However, the Monte Carlo simulation takes this a step further by running thousands of virtual matches, factoring in all sorts of random variations, and it gives us a probability of different outcomes, like wins, losses, and draws. The slightly higher win probability for Charlotte in the Monte Carlo might suggest that even if Colorado is expected to score a bit more frequently on average, Charlotte has more specific scenarios where they narrowly win.
Gotcha.
Maybe through a single well-taken chance or a defensive error. You know, capitalizing on Colorado's missing players.
Right. So it's looking at kind of a bigger range of possibility.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when we look across the specific AI models, MLP, random forest, GBM, stacked ensemble, and Bayesian classifier.
Right.
It's a real mix, leaning slightly towards Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
The MLP and random forest models both predict a draw.
Okay.
However, the GBM, stacked ensemble, and the Bayesian classifier are all forecasting an away win for Charlotte.
Interesting.
Even the Bayesian model gives a 34% probability of a draw.
Okay.
So even the models backing Charlotte see a significant chance of it ending level. So what does that overall split tell us?
Well, I think this near consensus among several different AI models favoring a Charlotte away win, even with a significant draw probability, suggests that the underlying data is picking up on something meaningful.
Okay.
And it's likely Charlotte's strong recent form and their healthier squad outweighing Colorado's home advantage. And that slight edge in expected goals from the Poisson model.
Gotcha.
The draw probabilities across the board also really underscore just how tight this matchup is predicted to be.
Yeah, and the most common predicted scorelines, the AI sees 1-1, 1-0, and 2-1 as the most likely outcomes. So again, underscoring that tight nature. So for our listeners out there, what's the key takeaway we can glean from all this data for the Colorado versus Charlotte clash?
I think the crucial insight here is the tension between Colorado's environmental advantage and Charlotte's superior form and health. The AI split predictions really highlight this uncertainty, suggesting that the early game intensity versus late game endurance battle will be key.
So keep an eye on that.
Absolutely.
All right, let's switch gears and head to the West Coast for the match between LA Galaxy and Orlando City SC at Dignity Health Sports Park. Conditions sound absolutely perfect for football. 67 degrees, no wind, clear skies.
Should be a beautiful day for it.
Ideal for some flowing technical play.
Yet the absence of any adverse weather should allow both teams to really execute their game plans without that added external factor.
But I wonder, for a Galaxy team still searching for their first win, could those perfect conditions also highlight the underlying weaknesses?
That's a good point.
In their play. And speaking of weaknesses, the LA Galaxy are still hunting for that elusive first victory of the season.
Definitely not where they want to be.
Which, immediately tells you something about their current form. On top of that, they're dealing with some significant injury issues. Chicharito remains out.
Big loss.
Raheem Edwards has a hamstring problem. And Caceres is questionable, potentially leaving their defense looking quite vulnerable. That's a hefty list of absentees.
It is. Losing a key striker like Chicharito is always a significant blow to attacking potency. Edwards provides crucial width and dynamism. And if Caceres is also out, that really weakens the spine of their defense. These aren't just squad rotation issues. These are key players missing in crucial areas.
It really is, Orlando City, in contrast, is coming into this match in solid form and, as your source points out, perhaps a little underrated in the general predictions leading up to the game.
Interesting.
They're looking mostly healthy, although Pereira might be eased into the match. But key attacking threats like Torres, Ojeda, and Angulo are all expected to be ready.
That's good news for Orlando.
It's a pretty stark contrast in team health
it is.
Compared to the Galaxy. How much do you think that discrepancy in squad availability influences the AI's thinking here?
I think that contrast in squad health combined with Orlando's recent form is likely a major driver behind the AI's predictions. When you have a team like Orlando with their key attacking players available and in good form, facing a Galaxy side depleted by injuries and still searching for a win, the statistical models will naturally lean towards the healthier and more successful team.
Okay, so let's see what the AI is forecasting for this West Coast encounter. The Poisson distribution gives Orlando a slight edge in expected goals.
Okay.
1.25 to LA Galaxy's 1.03.
Right.
But the Monte Carlo simulation shows a much more pronounced advantage for Orlando.
Okay.
A 31% chance of winning compared to just 31.2% for the Galaxy.
Wow.
With a 27.5% chance of a draw.
Okay.
That's a much clearer picture.
Yeah, it is.
Than the Colorado game.
Right.
Much more decisive. What do you see there?
Absolutely. The more significant leaning towards an Orlando victory in the Monte Carlo simulation compared to that tighter Poisson distribution really highlights how the AI models are likely factoring in the Galaxy's significant injury woes and Orlando's stronger overall team performance across those thousands of simulated scenarios.
Right.
It's not just about who might score more on average.
Right.
It's about who is more likely to secure the win under a variety of potential game states.
Under different circumstances.
Exactly.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we look at the individual AI model predictions for this one, it's almost a clean sweep.
Oh, wow.
The MLP, Random Forest, GBM, Stacked Ensemble, and the Bayesian classifier all predict an away win for Orlando.
Okay.
The Bayesian model does give a 32.4% probability of a draw.
Right.
But the overall consensus is overwhelmingly pointing towards an Orlando victory on the road.
Interesting.
That's pretty definitive.
Yeah, that near unanimity across those different AI models provides a very strong indicator that the data heavily favors an Orlando City win.
All right.
It strongly suggests that the combination of the Galaxy's ongoing struggles, their significant injuries, and Orlando's solid form creates a compelling statistical case for an away victory.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And those perfect playing conditions should further suit Orlando's technically capable and healthy players.
Absolutely.
And the most likely result the AI is spitting out.
Yeah.
A 0-1 win for Orlando.
Interesting.
The data even suggests the Galaxy might find the net, but Orlando is still heavily favored to leave Carson with all 3 points.
Makes sense.
So the key insight for this match seems pretty straightforward.
It does.
For our listeners, the AI models strongly indicate an Orlando City victory.
Yeah, the confluence of LA Galaxy's current difficulties and their substantial injury list contrasted with Orlando's good form and relatively healthy squad paints a clear picture of an away win being the most probable outcome.
All right, now, the Gambler's Ruin project also includes some broader betting considerations that are worth noting.
Right.
First and foremost, the crucial reminder, bankroll control.
Of course.
Only wager what you can comfortably afford to lose.
That's the golden rule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't matter how sophisticated the predictions are.
Right.
Responsible bankroll management is absolutely essential.
They also specifically point to the potential impact of altitude fade in the Colorado versus Charlotte game, suggesting that Colorado might offer some value later in the match.
Interesting.
If Charlotte starts to struggle in the thin air as the game progresses.
Yeah.
That's an interesting in-game dynamic to consider.
It is. It's something that the AI models might not perfectly capture.
Yeah.
Those physiological effects of altitude on a visiting team over 90 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this kind of qualitative insight reminds us to think beyond the raw probabilities and consider these unique match-specific factors.
Yeah.
If Charlotte comes out strong,
Yeah.
but their intensity noticeably drops in the second half,
Right.
a late push from a more acclimatized Colorado side becomes a real possibility.
Makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And for these particular Matchday 29 fixtures, the theme is controlled exposure, acknowledging that while there are favorites, these are entirely one-sided affairs.
Right.
It suggests a cautious and measured approach to any wagering.
Yeah, I think that aligns with the AI predictions themselves.
Yeah.
While the models show clear preferences, the draw probabilities are still significant in both matches, indicating a degree of inherent uncertainty.
Right, and that makes a lot of sense.
So controlled exposure is a prudent strategy
Yeah.
when the outcomes aren't absolute certainties.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Finally, the source throws out a couple of potential betting angles based on their analysis.
Okay, let's hear them.
A double chance on Orlando, covering both an Orlando win and a draw,
Right.
given that strong AI leaning and both teams to score in both the Colorado versus Charlotte and the LA Galaxy versus Orlando City games.
Gotcha.
What do you think about those particular suggestions?
Well, the double chance on Orlando provides a bit of insurance, given the strong AI prediction for an Orlando win.
Right.
Combining it with a draw in a single bet lowers the odds slightly, but increases the probability of a successful outcome.
Okay.
Both teams to score suggestion acknowledges that even in matches where one team is favored or a draw is plausible, there's still a reasonable expectation of attacking intent and potential for goals at both ends of the pitch.
Right.
Even a struggling Galaxy might find the net at home, for example.
Yeah.
And the tight nature of the Colorado game suggests both teams have a good chance of scoring.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's bring this deep dive to a close.
Okay.
We've thoroughly examined the AI-driven predictions and the key influencing factors for both the Colorado Rapids versus Charlotte FC and LA Galaxy versus Orlando City SC matches on MLS Matchday 29th of March, 2025.
Right.
Drawing directly from the insightful analysis provided by the Gambler's Ruin Project.
Sounds good. In summary, when you tune into that Colorado game, anticipate a closely fought battle where Colorado's home advantage, particularly the altitude as the game progresses, could be a significant factor. Though they will need to overcome the absence of key players against a Charlotte team in good form.
Right. And for the LA Galaxy versus Orlando City showdown, the data strongly suggests an Orlando victory.
It does.
Largely due to the Galaxy's current struggles, compounded by those significant injury concerns.
It makes sense.
And as you consider these AI-driven probabilities, it brings up a really interesting point for our listeners out there.
Yeah.
How do you weigh these data-backed forecasts against the inherent unpredictability that makes live sports so captivating?
It's a great question.
Especially when you factor in those human elements, team morale, moments of individual brilliance, tactical adjustments, made on the fly, aspects that even the most sophisticated AI models might not fully account for.
That's the beauty of it.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's that fascinating intersection of data analysis
and
the raw, unpredictable nature of athletic competition.
That's what keeps us coming back for more.
It really does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Sounds good.